A Fox News alert. Former Vice President Joe Biden has officially entered the 2020 race 2 hours and 22 minutes ago. Biden is now the 20th candidate to throw their hat in the ring.
But as the party continues its push left, can Joe Biden come out on top?
Well, California Republican congressional candidate Omar Navarro joins us now to react. Good morning, Omar.
Good morning.
What's your immediate reaction to the idea, as we heard from Dan Bongino earlier, the idea that Joe Biden is sort of putting what Dan called identity politics front and center?
Well, I mean, that's what the typical playbook of the Democrats. They use identity politics to divide people. They divide my community by using identity politics. You know, I was Latino growing up. My parents were from Mexico and Cuba, and I've noticed this growing up. I used to see Democrats all over Los Angeles using identity politics at their best.
What do you think is going to happen with the Democratic Party? Because you've got so many that are so progressive, and Bernie Sanders is doing really well right now, according to the polls. But then you have those that are more central, and those are the ones that will probably likely vote for Joe Biden.
You know, one thing I've seen from the Democratic Party, that they've been pushing a lot of people away from the Democratic Party. Of course, you see a lot of inciting violence going on all over Los Angeles and California. A lot of people are conservative, can't even go out there. When you see Democrats are going after Republicans and physically, not emotionally. And I think that's the problem that's going on right now. We have someone who's running for president who's had 8 years as vice president, and I believe that ultimately is going to come down to the successes of Donald Trump. He's created 4 million jobs. He's had over 400,000 jobs in manufacturing. He's done a lot of good things. I think this is the president we're going to keep in this next election.
Well, of course, you would like to replace Maxine Waters in that district there in Los Angeles. You're the Republican. She's the Democrat. I don't know if you've heard, but she thinks the president should be indicted. Watch this. And impeached.
There are many people around this president who have interacted with those from Russia, from the Kremlin, and with Putin. Where are they coming from? And I think when you ask yourself this question, you'd better be concerned about whether or not these are real patriots or whether or not they're in the pockets of the President of the United States.
Okay, so she's been pushing the impeachment. I know you tweeted yesterday, on Waters yesterday, we must impeach you from Congress for encouraging threats toward Americans and our president. But I know since you are part of a protected class in our country, nothing will happen. The people can stand with me. They can empower me to stop you. They will. And then you've got a link right there to donate to your campaign. What's been the reaction to that tweet by your campaign?
Yeah. You know, as I researched it more, I looked at the Constitution, and I look at Article 1, and I look at Section 5 in the Constitution and Clause 2, and I look at that you can actually expel a member of Congress for disorderly behavior. And for me, that's something that's viable, that you can do that. All you need is 2/3 majority of the vote from Congress. Ultimately, people can still support my campaign. They can go and donate at omarnavarro.com. But ultimately, that's what it takes. You have to go out and you have to do something about it, and that's what I've been doing from day one.
Well, in your district, how many people would like to see the President of the United States impeached because she represents the people of your district?
You know, when I walk around in my district and I talk to voters, and I knock to different voters, you know, I talk to the Hispanic community, which is the largest community, it's 54% of my district. You know, you have to look at it that way. You have to look at what are the demographics. And when I look at the demographics and I talk to those voters when I'm knocking doors, the people want to see someone that's going to unite them. They're seeing Maxine Waters as dividing them, and they're tired of it. You know, they've already had her for over 30 years. You know, she's been in public service for 40 years. And I think it's time for a change, and it's time for someone that's going to bring back jobs, bring back stability, common sense into our district, and I feel that I can do that.
All right, Omar, we wish you all the best. Thank you so much for coming on with us.
Thanks for having me on.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hillary Clinton sounding off in the Washington Post on the Mueller report. I'm going to quote directly. Mueller's report leaves many unanswered questions, in part because of Attorney General William Barr's redactions and obfuscations. But it is a roadmap. It's up to members of both parties to see where that roadmap leads to the eventual filing of articles of impeachment or not. Well, look who's here to respond. Lara Trump herself. Welcome back, Lara.
Thank you. Great to be with you.
So here's Hillary Clinton having a go at your father-in-law and basically saying to Congress, get out there and investigate ad nauseam. What's your response?
Well, of course, she conveniently chose the Washington Post, which we know loves the president and everyone in our family. I'm being facetious. They're terrible to us all. And it's pretty rich coming from a woman like Hillary Clinton, who, against the direction of the FBI, deleted 33,000 emails, used hammers to destroy cell phones, and used BleachBit to wipe her server. None of us knew, by the way, what BleachBit was. Thank you, Hillary Clinton. We now know what it is. To say that anything nefarious happened, that there was anything other than the president's full exoneration shown by the Mueller report, is completely ridiculous.
By the way, in that op-ed in the Washington Post, she goes on to say, maybe many say I'm not the right messenger.
I think almost everyone would say that, Hillary.
Okay.
You know, your time is up. You've tried it. It's not going to work. It has never worked for you. The Democrats are so obsessed, Stuart, with trying to find any way to beat Donald Trump in 2020 because they know he's going to win. So what's the alternative? Let's find something in the Mueller report to try and impeach him on. It's so crazy.
You know, you're beginning to enjoy this, aren't you?
Well,
tell.
You know what? You got to fight for something you believe in. And quite frankly, whenever people are attacking you and attacking people you love and people you know that are doing the right thing, it feels good sometimes to fight back.
Now, what do you make of this mother of all caravans, which is approaching our southern border again? I think they're holed up in southern Mexico at the moment. There's a lot of them on the way.
Yeah.
And President Trump, he wants to change the asylum laws. And that makes a lot, to me, that makes a lot of sense, because you've got to do something.
Yeah.
But it's not going to happen. The Democrats will never allow that to go through Congress.
It's so sad, because wouldn't they want all of these illegal immigrants who they say we need to be kind to and do the right thing for to go to a sanctuary city where they will be taken care of? By the way, speaking of that caravan, you know that people in these cities in Mexico have complained about the influx of people coming through their communities. They can't even deal with it there. This is a major problem, and the fact that Congress has not addressed what is going on our southern border has been detrimental not just to our country, but it's threatening people's lives every day, because these people have incentive to try and come here, and a lot of them die and are injured along the way.
That videotape reminds me of what happened in Europe when there was a march across Europe by a million people who wanted to get into Western Europe. Angela Merkel let them in. Open borders.
And it was the downfall of Germany. It was one of the worst things that ever happened to Germany. This president knows that. He's trying to prevent that from happening here. But Congress has got to get their act together and do the right thing here for the American people.
Lara Trump, thank you very much for being with us again.
Thank you. Always great.
You know, you're a glutton for punishment. You keep on coming back.
I'll be back again, I'm sure.
Oh, okay, we'll take it. Thank you, Laura.
Thank you.
Joe Biden made it official, entering the 2020 presidential race, joining an already crowded Democratic field. Joining us right now is former Trump campaign foreign policy advisor, Fox News national security and foreign affairs expert, Waleed Fares. And great to see you, Waleed. Thanks very much for weighing in here.
Thank you for having me.
Your reaction to Joe Biden?
Well, that was expected by most observers, that the most senior politician in the Democratic Party, the former vice president, is in the best position in view of his advisors and the supporters to be the leading candidate of that field.
How significant a challenge is this to Donald Trump?
Probably this is the best shot that the Democratic Party would have, because Biden is experienced. He was for 8 years in the White House, and all is going to rest now with his team. Who is he going to have as a teammate? Who's going to be the vice presidential candidate would be the bigger question.
Waleed, hi, James Freeman here with the Wall Street Journal. How would a Biden foreign policy differ from the Trump foreign policy?
Oh, it will be completely different. It will be a return to the Obama administration policies, including, let's begin with the Iran deal, a return to the Iran deal, a different policy with China. I'm not sure what they're going to do with North Korea now that Chairman Kim is meeting with Putin. That's changing a lot of the chess game going on. So we're going to see a very clear difference between a Biden platform and a Trump platform.
Waleed, good morning, Mitch Rochelle. You mentioned the China deal, and I think we've talked about on the air China sort of slow playing the Trump administration in hopes that he doesn't win re-election and they don't have to sort of make the deal that's on the table. How do you think China would potentially handicap a Biden administration, and how could that influence potentially the remainder of the Trump first term from a negotiating with China perspective?
Well, your angle is very interesting because it applies not only to China but to Iran and many other players who are under pressure by the Trump administration. China is the biggest actor who's under pressure, who are under pressure to get a new deal in terms of finances, in terms of economy. And China is playing all the cards, including, as I said earlier, Chairman Kim now meeting with President Putin. I believe China is behind that, so that it's not dealing with this issue, and now it's opening a new chapter so far that President Putin will be the one who will bring back Kim to the table of negotiation. So I believe, as you said, that the next year and a half are going to be attempts by many international players to gain time, hoping that there will be no second presidency for President Trump, but they may fail.
The meeting between, it's Dagan McDowell, Wally, the meeting between Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un, how is that not a black eye for the Trump administration and what's been going on with our two less than successful summits with North Korea?
I think Chairman Kim meeting with Putin is in preparation and repositioning to speak with our president, with President Trump. That's what he's trying to do. Chapter 1 failed. I mean, it all began when Kim fired those missiles, expecting that, as was the case before, a Trump administration is going to go and negotiate and accept some sort of aid. It did not work. President Trump tweeted first and then sent task forces. North Korean leaders ran to China, and China told them you have to talk with the United States, and we saw what we saw. I mean, he was gratified that he has been at a high visibility, but when time came and Trump asked him to deliver on nukes, he couldn't. So now he's going to Putin. And Putin, it's very good for him because he's going to reposition himself to speak with President Trump after 2 years of, impossibilities.
And then there's China. The White House announcing that U.S. Trade Representative Robert Lighthizer and Secretary of Treasury Stephen Mnuchin are headed back to Beijing next week. They're going to go on the 30th to resume talks. First, your thoughts on that. Are we going to see a deal? And what do you think Biden's policy platform will be? Will he take on China the way the president has?
He is going, in my view, to be tougher on China, but in reality they're going to negotiate with China from a weaker position. The Trump administration is stronger in terms of narrative, but they will try to cut a deal with China. And China understand that now they have two partners they're going to be dealing with, a sitting president and a strong candidate.
Yeah. Do you think Biden has articulated his strategy yet? What is it? I mean, or is it going to be anything more than take down Trump?
It's going to be, first of all, a strong primary. He's going to distinguish himself in foreign policy from everybody else. He's going to tell them, look, I have been vice president for 8 years. I know better on China, on Iran, on Russia, on everything else, to win that first battle. The second battle, he's going to say, well, look, Trump has not yet given any results in terms of negotiating with China. What is the result? Negotiating with Kim. What is the result? What is he doing on Iran? These would be the criticisms that would be used by former Vice President Biden against our president now.
That makes a lot of sense. Waleed, great to have your insights. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Waleed Farah is joining us there.